are you now saying that what Justice Thomas praised is now illegal in your view?
Senator, there's a difference between what you see on paper and what you see in reality, and I reject your premise. I reject your premise that how California describes its admissions practices is
about whether
reality.
you subscribe to the Supreme Court's opinion or whether you disagree with Justice Thomas' concurrence. You can answer that question, can't you?
In the abstract, yes. In reality, what you're describing does not exist in the UC system.
Okay, so Justice Thomas got it wrong. Is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying that.
Well, you are saying that because he was praising the policies of the University of California. You seem to be saying now that any university that gives a preference to low-income applicants is engaged in illegal DEI, or if they put a focus on first-generation students, that's somehow impermissible. After all the years of criticism of cancel culture.
Welcome back to Right View Nation, where we expose the lies, defend our Constitution, and never back down from the truth. If you're sick of the political games, sick of the double standards, and sick of being told what to think, then you're in the right place. Hit that like button, subscribe for unapologetic truth bombs, and share this video with every red-blooded patriot you know. And comment below, because your voice still matters in this country. All right, patriots, let's talk about Adam Schiff, the poster boy for everything that's wrong with the Washington swamp. You know him. The guy who's been lying to the American people with a straight face for years. The man who turned his congressional seat into a soapbox for pushing hoaxes, smearing patriots, and selling fear to stay in power.
Thank you, Chairman. Ms. Dillon, you recently announced that DOJ was launching an investigation into the University of California over its UC 2030 capacity plan, which notes that future growth of faculty and students should result in campus populations that better reflect and tap the talent of underrepresented populations who represent the majority of Californians. In the SFFA versus Harvard opinion, the Supreme Court held that nothing in this opinion should be construed as prohibiting universities from considering an applicant's discussion of how race affected his or her life, be it through discrimination, inspiration, or otherwise, allowing universities to continue assessing students' experience with race on an individualized basis. In that opinion, in his concurrence, Justice Thomas praised the University of California for achieving diversity through race-neutral policies, including preferences for low-income applicants and first-generation students, and recruiting efforts targeted at areas with substantial populations of people of color. Are the race-neutral policies like those used by University of California, which Justice Thomas explicitly praised in that opinion, now considered by you to be illegal DEI?
Well, Senator, first of all, the investigation that we've opened is an investigation, and it's an investigation into the hiring policies of the University of California system, not the admissions policies. That said, I have absolutely seen abuses in the admissions policies in using race as a crude proxy for discrimination.
That's not the question I asked you. Are the race-neutral policies praised by Justice Thomas now considered by you to be illegal DEI?
I think you're mixing apples and oranges.
Well,
I can't really answer your question.
You can answer my question and say, yes, they are now illegal. That is what Justice Thomas praised in terms of race-neutral policies, which include preferences for low-income applicants, first-generation students, things like that. Are you now saying that what Justice Thomas praised is now illegal in your view?
Senator, there's a difference between what you see on paper and what you see in reality, and I reject your premise. I reject your premise that how California describes its admissions practices is
about whether
reality.
you subscribe to the Supreme Court's opinion or whether you disagree with Justice Thomas' concurrence. You can answer that question, can't you?
In the abstract, yes. In reality, what you're describing does not exist in the UC system.
Okay, so Justice Thomas got it wrong. Is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying that.
Well, you are saying that because he was praising the policies of the University of California. You seem to be saying now that any university that gives a preference to low-income applicants is engaged in illegal DEI, or if they put a focus on first-generation students, that's somehow impermissible. After all the years of criticism of cancel culture, you seem to want to cancel any institution that has views that you disagree with. In answer to the questions about law firms, you want to cancel law firms because they take on unpopular clients to you, to the administration. That is, if a firm represents someone with an adverse interest to the administration, which is their First Amendment right to do, and I would also say their duty to do, you would cancel them. You would cancel universities like Harvard or the University of Virginia that take positions and exercise their First Amendment rights contrary to what you think the administration wants to see. You would cancel the Associated Press for not using the ridiculous nomenclature of the Gulf of America. You're canceling now the Wall Street Journal because the Wall Street Journal had the audacity to publish an article about Trump's connections to Jeffrey Epstein. So this is what's going on in this administration. You've devastated the Civil Rights Division. Hundreds of attorneys, 368, have departed since January of this year. There's been a mass exodus from the Civil Rights Department. It is just a shell of what it used to be. They're being canceled. They're being canceled by you, by the department. Anyone that stands up to this president is at risk of being canceled. And I think what you're doing to use the sledgehammer of federal funding with universities to try to coerce them to accepting your right-wing agenda is disgraceful. And using that cudgel will have far-reaching implications, attacking research done by universities, academic independence done by universities. It will establish a dangerous precedent that can be abused by a president of any party, and we should recognize that on a bipartisan basis, even though it does not appear that we do. I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Senator Kennedy.
Let's start with the big one, the Russia collusion hoax. Remember how Schiff went on every mainstream media outlet from CNN to MSNBC claiming he had direct evidence that Donald Trump was working with Vladimir Putin? For years, he fed the American public lie after lie, promising that Trump was a Russian agent. Well, guess what? That evidence never existed. And even after the Mueller report fell flat and proved there was no collusion, Schiff doubled down. Not an apology, not a retraction, nothing. Because for Adam Schiff, truth doesn't matter, narrative does. Then there was the impeachment circus. Schiff was right in the middle, acting like he was the lead in some twisted Broadway drama. He took private phone calls, twisted them, fabricated quotes in front of Congress. Yes, you heard that right. He literally made up words Trump never said, just to fit his political agenda. That's not oversight. That's propaganda. And don't get me started on his obsession with January 6th. Now let me be clear. We've condemned violence. But Schiff doesn't care about justice. He cares about weaponizing tragedy to silence political opposition. He wants to paint every Trump supporter, every parent at a school board meeting, every red hat-wearing American as a domestic terrorist. Why? Because if he can scare you into silence, he wins. And now, after everything, the lies, the censorship, the fear-mongering, Schiff has the audacity to run for higher office. Oh, he thinks he's earned a promotion. Let me ask you this, America. What has Adam Schiff done for you? Has he brought jobs to his district? Has he fought for lower gas prices, energy independence, border security, or the rights of working-class Americans? No. All he's done is push his Hollywood-style politics while everyday Americans suffer. Schiff isn't a servant of the people. He's a servant of the deep state, the media elite, and the radical left. He's more concerned with clout on Twitter than truth in Congress. And he's a prime example of what happens when you give power to a man who thinks he's smarter than the Constitution. But here's the good news. We see through it now. The American people are waking up. We're done being manipulated. We're done being labeled. We're done with Schiff's lies, and we're done with the Democrats treating this country like their personal playground. If you believe Adam Schiff is everything that's wrong with American politics, then it's time to make some noise. Hit that like button if you're done with career politicians. Subscribe to Right View Nation for more hard-hitting truths the mainstream media won't tell you. Share this video with every patriot in your life. And comment below. What would you say to Adam Schiff if he had to answer to you, the American people? We don't bow. We don't break. We fight for truth, and we fight for America. This is Right View Nation, where real patriots rise. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.